This is the second part of section 6.6 notes. We're still talking about how we solve quadratic equations by factoring. So remember, before we can do this, since we need to use the zero product property, we have to get everything on one side of the equation equals to 0 on the other side. So if we look at number 4, we need to subtract 50 from both sides of the equation. And after we do that, that gives us x squared minus 5x minus 50 equals 0. So now we can factor. So we need two numbers that multiply to give us negative 50 and add to give us negative 5. So let's see, we could have 5 and negative 10, negative 5 and positive 10, and I think that actually covers us because 5 plus a negative 10 gives us that negative 5 that we need. So that means that this factors into x plus 5 times x minus 10. That equals 0. And so now by the zero product property, we have x plus 5 equals 0, or x minus 10 equals 0. So subtract 5 from both sides on the first equation. We have x equals negative 5. Add 10 to both sides on the second equation, and we have x equals positive 10. So our answers are x is negative 5 or x is 10. And again, we can check those. So if we go back to our original equation and we put in negative 5 squared minus 5 times a negative 5, and we want to know if that equals 50. So negative 5 squared is 25. Negative 5 times negative 5 is plus 25. And does that equal 50? Well, yes, it does. So negative 5 works. I will leave it to you to check to see if 10 works. Now let's turn our attention to number 5. This one, we have the same problem. We don't have all our terms on the left side of the equation equals 0, so we need to subtract 10x from both sides. And that gives us x squared minus 10x equals negative 25. Now we have to add 25 to both sides. And that gives us, x squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 0. Now, this is actually one of our special cases from section 6.4. This is one of those perfect square trinomials. But if you didn't know that, you could go back and do our normal method. We need two numbers that multiply to give us 25 and add to give us negative 10. So we could have 5 and 5, or negative 5 and negative 5. And I believe the two negative 5s are the ones we want because that adds to give us negative 10. So that means this factors into x minus 5 times x minus 5 equals 0. So either x minus 5 equals 0 or x minus 5 equals 0. Now, since we have the same thing twice, is it really necessary for us to solve it twice? No, it's not. So we don't have to worry about that second one, but only because it's exactly the same thing. So if we just add 5 to both sides, we get x equals positive 5. All right, let's take a look at number 6. On this one, we should subtract 25 from both sides so that we have a 0 on the right-hand side. That gives us 16x squared minus 25 equals 0. This is one of those special products. This is the difference of two squares. So we have 4x plus 5 times 4x minus 5 equals 0. So either 4x plus 5 equals 0 or 4x minus 5 equals 0. So solving these, in the first equation, we're going to subtract 5 from both sides, which gives us 4x equals negative 5. And then we're going to divide both sides by 4. So we get x equals negative 5/4. Okay, taking on the second equation, we need to add 5 to both sides first. So we add 5 to both sides, and we have 4x equals positive 5. Divide both sides by 4. And we get x equals positive 5/4. So those are our two solutions. And again, if you go back to our original equation and plug that in for x, it should, either one in for x, they should both check out. And I will leave that to you to verify. Okay, what do we do about number 7? Well, first of all, we have a 28 on the right-hand side. We need to do something with that. But if we just subtract it from both sides, is that really going to help us? Because we'll have something times something minus 28. That just seems messy. So when we see a problem like number 7, what we should do is FOIL the left-hand side out. So we'll FOIL, and then we should move the right-hand side over. So if we do the first, x times x is x squared. And then we have minus 2x minus 5x plus 10 equals 28. We can combine like terms on the left-hand side. So x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 28. Then subtract 28 from both sides. When we do that, we are left with x squared minus 7x minus 18 equals 0. And now we need to factor. So negative 18, all the things that can multiply to give us that. So 1 and negative 18, negative 1 and positive 18, 2 and negative 9, negative 2, positive 9, 3 and negative 6, or negative 3 and positive 6. So which one of those do we actually need? The first one's sum to give us negative 17, so not them. Second one's sum to give us positive 17. 2 and negative 9. When we add those, that gives us a negative 7. So those are the two we need. So this factors into x plus 2 times x minus 9, and that equals 0. So either x plus 2 equals 0 or x minus 9 equals 0. Then we solve each one of those equations. The first one by subtracting 2. So x equals -2. And the second one we solve by adding 9 to both sides. So x equals +9. Those are our two solutions. Okay, let's go on to the next page. I think there's just one more problem left. Okay. When an object is projected upward, its height s in meters is given by s equals -5t squared plus vt plus h, where h is the initial height, v is the initial velocity, and t is the time in seconds. So if a cliff diver dives from a cliff that's 45 meters above the ocean, so here's my cliff, here's the ocean, here's my little diver, and we know this distance is 45 meters. So h is 45, and since there's no initial velocity, v is 0. So our equation is s equals -5t squared plus 0t plus 45. Or really, s equals -5t squared plus 45. Now, to find out how long it takes for the diver to break the water. Well, the water is at 0. So that means we're going to put 0 in for s. So we have 0 equals -5t squared plus 45. And we need to factor that. So we start by taking out a common factor of a -5, which leaves us with t squared minus 9. So 0 equals -5. Now t squared minus 9, that's a difference of perfect squares. So that's t plus 3 times t minus 3. Now, we only have to set the factors that have variables in them equal to 0. So either 0 equals t plus 3 or 0 equals t minus 3. So from the first equation, we subtract 3 from both sides and we get -3 seconds, because remember t is the time in seconds. And when we do the second equation, we add 3 to both sides. So we get +3 seconds equals t. Now, does it make any sense that the diver hit the water -3 seconds before he jumped? No, it doesn't. So no negative time. We can throw away that answer. So the answer is the diver hits the water 3 seconds after he jumps. Okay, that's all of section 6.6. So I'll see you guys in the next video.